Entre dichas películas se encuentran las que rodó con el admirado cómico Will Rogers, cuyo humor de estilo relajado e incluso su aspecto desaliñado recordaba de algún modo a su antiguo compañero Harry Carey. Una escena improvisada de Judge Priest evoca perfectamente su humor espontáneo e ingenioso.
You get there in the morning and say, Will, this is what you're supposed to say. And when the time, now he would say it in his own words. And they were much better than what the writer wrote, because nobody could write for Will Rogers. Because Will Rogers has more humor than all the writers in the world. And he'd just say it in his own way, which was always, which was good. And you never bother, just let him go along and leave him alone.
That's fine, that's great, Jeff. That's great. Keep on going, keep going. You can have that white man.
Las películas de Rogers, con su encanto nostálgico y acogedor, introdujeron a Ford en una nueva temática, la temática de América. Ford dirigió 3 películas taquilleras con Will Rogers en el papel de doctor o juez o capitán de una máquina de vapor, cuya tranquila integridad hizo de estos personajes los primeros hombres justos que se convertirían con el tiempo en los héroes del cine de Ford. Pero 2 acontecimientos marcarían su carrera. Will Rogers murió trágicamente en un accidente de avión y la compañía Fox Films, con la que Ford tenía un contrato, se había fusionado con una nueva compañía bajo el nombre de 20th Century Fox, con Daryl Zanuck al frente de la producción.
You return again and again to the small-town American southern scene with films like Judge Priest, Steamboat Round the Bend, The Sun Shines Bright. What is your particular fascination with the southern scene?
I don't know, instinct. I'm married to a southerner. Matter of fact, there's a grandfather's flag, Confederate flag there. It's still one of the few things left over from the war between the states. I don't know. It just happens. I have no particular love for the South any more than I have for the West. I'm still a state of Maine.
But you got it on the screen like no other director ever has.
Well, I don't know. Probably my instinct or luck, I don't know, whatever you wish to call it. I wouldn't know. I couldn't give you a lucid answer on that.
Tell me how you managed to do that extraordinary steamboat race in Steamboat Round the Bend. Was that all real? Did you really have about 15 steamboats?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Where did you find them all?
On the Sacramento River, in California, Northern California. They were all up there. We just hired them and away they went. Though I'm sorry it brought up because they changed the company just about then. I had left a new producing organization came in to take over the company, and they cut the picture to pieces. They cut most of the comedy out. It was a very funny picture, but this fellow had no sense of humor, and all the comedy was cut out. And he tried to make a dramatic picture of it, which it wasn't. It was comedy, pure and simple.
The lassoing of the preacher off the riverboat landing.
Right.
I suspect that a lot of your scripts are very improvised, and I believe that one of the arch exponents of this was Will Rogers. Can you tell me about him?
When you make a statement and ask a question, a lot of my scripts are improvised. Exactly what do you mean by that?
That you start with basic material and then work around it.
Well, I think any good director would do that. I mean, a script is a skeleton that you work on. If it's a good script, you do it, verbatim. But how often do you get a script that you can do verbatim? I mean, I remember once upon a time, I mean, the so-called producer and the writer was a very dear friend of mine. He says, "This is the greatest script I've ever written." He says, "Jack, I want you to promise me now that you'll do this word for word." I said, "I solemnly swear I will do it word for word." So I did this script and did this picture. We only went 5 weeks over schedule. And it came out when the first cut was 18 reels. And, you know, well, of course, I did it verbatim. Every word in the script is in there. They were the longest speeches. One speech I know read 4 pages. But I did it word for word, word for word. And I had to do it over and over again because it's almost impossible, you know, for a person, I mean, to, you know, memorize that. But I didn't run 18 reels, and they said, "How are you going to cut it down?" I said, "I'm not going to cut it down. You're going to cut it down." I just directed and did exactly the way you wanted. And I said, "There is your picture." It was a horrible picture. And when it finally came out, I mean, they finally did get it down to 8 reels. It was horrible.
Will Rogers obviously got around this. How did he work?
Meaning what?
I believe that Will Rogers had
You
his...
seem to have sort of a language barrier here.
I believe Will Rogers had his own way of approaching a script.
No, that isn't true because he never approached a script in his life. I don't think he ever saw one. I mean, you get there in the morning and say, "Will, this is what you're supposed to say, words to this effect." And he'd read it and memorize it. And when the time, now he would say it in his own words. And they were much better than what the writer wrote, because nobody could write for Will Rogers. Because Will Rogers has more humor than all the writers in the world. And he'd just say it in his own way, which was always, you know, which was good. And you never bother, just let him go along and leave him alone. But as far as, you know, he'd never read and study a script word for word and try to repeat it. I said, "Just take it and say it in your own words." And he would. And it always came out right. Because he's a very, very humorous man. But he was always wonderful to work with because he was full of suggestion. It would be all right here if I said so. I said, "Great. Go ahead, say it." Well, he was a delight to work with. He was just a delight to work with. Are you growing a mustache?
I'm trying to.
Ex-guardsman? Go ahead.